The door slammed hard enough to shake the rafters. A tin cup tipped and rolled, water spilling across the floorboards where the blood was already darkening. Eliza did not look up. She tightened her arms around the infant, the small weight that made the room tilt. Rosie cried, thin and fierce, and the sound cut through the house like wire. He asked the question before his boots stopped moving. The answer came in a whisper because the breath would not come faster. The strike came anyway. Eliza's head snapped sideways. The wall met her cheek. She did not cry out. She curled around the baby and let the blows find her back instead, her forearms locking as if they were boards nailed in place. Two little shapes huddled by the stove, breath caught, eyes wide, the kind of stillness learned too early. The water kept running until it soaked her skirt. He kicked the pail aside and laughed, the sound thick. "Another mouth," he said. "Another wrong thing." He grabbed for the child and missed. Eliza shifted just enough to block him. Her lips split. She tasted iron and swallowed. Outside, a man paused by the fence. He heard the thud and the crying. He walked on. Eliza slid from the bed when the room pitched again. Her knees hit first. She kept her balance by pressing her forehead to the floor, the baby tucked tight beneath her chin. When he dragged her by the arm, the boards scraped her skin and left a burn. He hauled her through the doorway and shoved her into the yard, the cold dirt biting through cloth. She landed on one knee and stayed there, rocking Rosie until the crying thinned to a breath. The house door stayed open. The shadows watched. A wagon creaked at the edge of the yard. The horse snorted and slowed. A man reined in without a word and swung down. He crossed the dirt with measured steps, boots sinking, eyes fixed on the woman on her knees and the baby pressed to her chest. Eliza saw his shadow first, long and steady. She did not look up. "Keep moving," the man with the bottle slurred from the doorway. "This is my house." The newcomer did not answer him. He stopped a few paces away and set a lantern down on the ground. The light lifted the dust and caught on Eliza's bloodied mouth, the trembling in her arms, the small bare feet behind her. He took off his hat and held it at his side. When he spoke, his voice was calm and carried. "If having girls is a crime here," he said, "then let me be the one to raise them proud." The yard went still. Even the horse stilled, ears forward. The bottle wavered and did not fall. Somewhere a door creaked as someone leaned to see better. Eliza's eldest reached out without looking and found the man's fingers. He did not close his hand around hers. He let her hold him. The man at the doorway swore and took a step forward. The lantern light did not move. The newcomer did not move either. He waited. After a moment that stretched, the step went nowhere. The yard breathed again. Eliza felt the weight shift. She felt the choice before it had a name. The man lifted the lantern and held it out. "Ma'am," he said, "you can sit on the wagon. There's water." She shook her head once, small. "Why?" The word scraped out. "Because the night is cold," he said. "That's all." I didn't believe him. She stood when the oldest tugged her skirt. Her legs shook but held. The wagon board was rough under her hand. He did not touch her when he helped the children climb. He did not take the baby. He waited until Eliza settled Rosie against her chest, until the crying found a quieter place. Then he turned the horse and took the narrow trail instead of the road, with lamps. The ride was not long, but it felt like distance. Every rut jarred her bones. The lantern swung and threw light over sage and stone. Eliza watched his back from the wagon, the way he held the reins loose, the way he glanced back only to check the children. She counted breaths until her hands stopped shaking. The house came up low against the hills, wood dark, windows small. A barn leaned beside it. He set the lantern on the porch and stepped back. "You can go in," he said. "There's food, clean water." He paused. "I'll be in the barn." In the barn? The question escaped her before she could stop it. He nodded. "You'll rest easier." She took the children inside. The smell of wood smoke and beans hung warm. A small fire burned steady. He set blankets by the hearth and filled a basin with water from the kettle, then lifted his coat from a hook and left, closing the door softly. The sound settled like a promise kept. Eliza washed the blood from her face with hands that would not stop trembling. The children pressed close and dabbed at her cheek with cloths too big for their fingers. Rosie fed and slept. Eliza did not. She sat upright by the fire and listened to the night. From the barn came the quiet work of settling hay, the shift of the horse, then a low guitar, the notes plain and careful. The eldest stirred. "Mama," she whispered, "I can't sleep." Before Eliza could answer, the guitar stopped. His voice came through the door, not loud, not soft. He told a story about a light that stayed on when storms came, not because it was strong, but because it showed the way. The children listened. One by one, they folded against Eliza's side. The fire popped. Eliza watched the flame bend and stand again. For a moment, she thought of the small church she had not seen since winter set in. The wreath that hung crooked by the door, the way a candle looked when it was lit for reasons bigger than hunger. She crossed herself without thinking and stopped, embarrassed by the habit. No one saw. Morning came pale. Eliza stood at the table mending a torn hem, her fingers moving on their own. Her eyes caught on a shelf by the hearth. Books. Not many, but real. She did not touch them. He came in and set bread on the table and a cup of coffee where her hand hovered. He did not sit. He nodded once and went back out. Later, when the children slept again, Eliza opened the bundle of clothes she had kept dry on the ride. Something stiff lay folded where it did not belong. She slid it free and felt the paper catch on her skin. A document. The seal was wrong. The wax had spread uneven, the impression shallow on one edge. Eliza's thumb traced the letters without reading them. She folded the paper and slid it into the back of her small notebook, the one she kept for sums and lists. Her hands steadied. From the yard came the sound of iron on iron. She stepped to the door and watched him work at the anvil, sparks lifting and dying. He hummed, low. Rosie slept in a basket near his boots. He lifted the quilt higher with fingers that knew their strength. Eliza pressed her hand to her mouth and turned away. That afternoon, riders passed on the road and did not stop. By dusk, a man came on foot with a message and would not meet her eyes. The word traveled fast in places like this. Eliza watched the light fade and counted what she could lose. When the lantern was lit again, he set it on the table between them. "Ma'am," he said, careful, "if you're staying tonight, I need you to hear this." He waited until she looked at him. "I'm not asking for anything." Eliza felt the paper's edge against her palm through the notebook. She looked at Rosie, then at the door. "What happens tomorrow?" she asked. He did not answer at once. The lantern hissed. Outside, the barn settled. "Tomorrow," he said, "we decide." He pushed the lantern closer. "You can stay," he said, "or I can take you where the law listens." Eliza met his eyes. The question opened like a door. Morning broke thin and colorless. Frost edged the trough and the fence rails held it like lace. Eliza rose before the fire did and moved quiet, easing the kettle onto the coals. Rosie stirred once, then slept again, breath soft as a held note. Outside, iron rang, steady, unhurried. Each strike landed where it meant to. She stepped onto the porch with the notebook tucked under her arm. He was at the anvil, sleeves rolled, the hammer lifting and falling with a patience she had not seen in men who raised their voices. He did not look up until she spoke. "Sir," she said, because it felt safer than his name. "I can work." He set the hammer down and wiped his hands on his trousers. "I don't doubt it." "I won't stay for nothing," she said. "I can cook, sew, keep accounts." He considered her a moment, eyes measuring, not weighing. "There's a ledger," he said. "You can keep it. I'll pay the same I pay myself." That stopped her. She blinked once. "That won't be necessary." "It is," he said. "If you're working, you're paid." I didn't know how to refuse kindness. They ate without ceremony. Bread, beans, coffee. The children woke and chased the frost with bare laughter that startled her, as if sound could be dangerous. He showed them how to tie a knot that held without biting the rope. Eliza watched the way he let the oldest make mistakes and did not reach to correct her until she asked. By noon, the road brought dust. A rider slowed and did not dismount. The man tipped his hat to Eliza and looked past her. "Message," he said, "for the woman." She took it. The paper was thin, the words were not. A summons, written with the confidence of habit. She folded it once, then twice, and slid it into the notebook where the other paper waited. Her fingers left ink on the margin. He read her face without asking. "They'll come," he said. "Today," she answered. He nodded. "Then we don't go into town." The children were drawing by the table when the hooves came. 3 this time. The sound gathered and stopped at the gate. Eliza felt the old pull, to hide, to make herself small. She did not. She lifted Rosie and stepped onto the porch. The man with the badge sat high and straight, his smile thin. "Ma'am," he said, as if tasting it, "you're needed at home." "This is my home today," Eliza said. The rider laughed once and leaned toward the gate. "You misunderstand the word." He stepped out from the barn then, the hammer in his hand, not raised. He stopped at the fence and rested his arm on the top rail. "She's not going anywhere," he said. "By whose say?" the man asked. "By hers," he said, "and by mine." The badge flashed. The rider's hand drifted toward his holster and stopped when the hammer rang once against the rail. Not a threat. A reminder. The other two shifted in their saddles. The air tightened. "You're harboring," the rider said. "You know the law." "I know this place, Tamawa," he said, "and I know children." A cry broke from the doorway. The oldest had followed, eyes wet. Eliza did not turn. She held steady until the man spat and wheeled his horse. "This isn't finished," he called. "Tomorrow, we do it proper." When they were gone, Eliza's knees went weak. She sat on the step and let the cold come up through her bones. He set the hammer aside and crouched a few feet away, not touching. "Ma'am," he said, gentle, "if you want to leave now, I'll hitch the wagon." She shook her head. "Not like this." He nodded once. "Then we get ready." The afternoon passed in small, exacting work. Eliza scrubbed the floor until the boards lightened. She kept the ledger neat and true. When the children napped, she opened the notebook and copied the summons word for word, then the other paper, careful with each letter. The seal troubled her. The impression was shallow on one edge, as if the hand that pressed it had slipped. She took the paper to the light and turned it. "Sir," she said, "this is wrong." He leaned over her shoulder, close enough to share the breath. He did not touch her. "How do you know?" She swallowed. "Because I've seen the right ones, and because this one doesn't want to be read." He straightened. "Can you show that?" "Not yet," she said, "but I can." The knock came at dusk. A young man stood there, hat in his hands, eyes moving. "Deputy," he said, as if apologizing, "I was told to bring this." Another paper, the same seal, the same flaw. The deputy did not look at Eliza. His gaze caught on Rosie, on the children. It flickered. "You have until morning," he said. "After that, I can't help." "Help with what?" Eliza asked. He hesitated. "With hearing you." He left without another word. Night fell clean. He lit the lantern and set it between them. The flame steadied. Eliza felt the paper's edge against her palm and spoke without looking up. "I can't go back," she said. "If I do, they'll make my girls learn fear first." He did not answer at once. When he did, his voice was lower. "I buried my wife under cottonwoods," he said. "I held our boy until the fever broke him." He stopped. "I won't stand by again." She closed her eyes. "Then we'll stand together." Outside, the barn creaked. He took his coat and paused at the door. "I'll sleep out there," he said, as if it mattered. "It does," she said, surprising herself. The night brought a sound that did not belong. Footsteps by the fence. A whisper that turned into laughter and went away. Eliza did not sleep. She sat with the notebook open and the lantern low, copying and comparing, the work steadying her hands. Before dawn, she folded a page and tucked it into her bodice. She slipped outside and crossed to the barn. He was awake, sitting on a stool, the guitar quiet in his lap. "I need to go into town," she said. He set the guitar aside. "It won't be safe." "I know," she said. "That's why." He stood. "I'll hitch." "No," she said. "If you come, they'll make it about you." He searched her face. "Then take the wagon." "I'll take the road," she said. "They expect me to hide." He nodded once. "I'll be at the gate." She walked into the gray with the notebook warm against her ribs. The church bell rang once, thin as thread. A wreath hung crooked on the door, green against the pale wood. Eliza crossed herself and stopped, then went on. By the time the sun cleared the hill, she was at the square. People watched. Some turned away. She found the clerk and laid the papers down. "Read these," she said. "Slow." The clerk frowned and called for the judge. Voices gathered. The seal came apart in the light. Behind her, Boots sounded. Eliza did not turn. She felt the weight of the room tilt and held it. He stood at the back, hat in hand, the lantern at his feet, though it was full day. He did not speak. The judge cleared his throat. "Ma'am," he said, "there are questions." Eliza met his eyes. "I have answers," she said. The door opened again. The badge gleamed. The judge looked from the seal to Eliza. "We'll hear this now," he said. She felt the future crack open like ice. The room held its breath. Sunlight slid through the high windows and laid a pale stripe across the clerk's table where the papers lay spread, their edges lifting as if uneasy. Eliza stood with Rosie tucked tight, the notebook warm against her ribs. She did not look back. She kept her eyes on the seal as the judge leaned closer, his fingers careful, like a man touching a wound. The clerk cleared his throat and read the lines aloud. The words sounded right until they didn't. The seal caught the light and showed its weakness, the edge pressed shallow, the wax thinned where a steady hand would have set it deep. A murmur ran through the benches. It did not grow loud. It grew sharp. The man with the badge shifted. "This is a distraction," he said. "We're here about harboring." "Order," the judge said, and tapped the desk. He looked at Eliza. "You brought this yourself?" "Yes, sir," she said. Her voice did not tremble. Her arms did. The judge nodded once. "And you can read?" She hesitated the length of one breath. "I can," she said. "I was taught." The badge laughed, short and mean. "Then she's arrogant too." Eliza did not answer him. She opened the notebook and laid it flat. Neat columns, dates, sums that balanced. The judge's eyes followed the lines without hurry. The clerk leaned in, then straightened. "This hand," the clerk said slowly, "is not the same." The badge's smile thinned. "You're saying I forged it." "I'm saying it doesn't want to be read," Eliza said. She lifted her chin. "And it doesn't want to be read because it's wrong. I have learned to stand still." The judge looked to the back of the room. Calder stood with his hat in his hands, the lantern at his feet, though the day was bright. He did not move. He did not speak. The judge's gaze returned to the table. "We'll take testimony," the judge said. "Now." The badge stepped forward. "Your Honor." "Now," the judge said again. The midwife came first. She spoke of bruises where bruises did not belong, of days after birth when hands should be gentle. She spoke without ornament. The room listened. Then the older woman rose, her cane tapping once as if to claim the floor. She spoke of books returned late because they had been read twice, of a woman who taught letters by the light of a single candle. She did not look at Eliza until the end. "I watched her change," she said. "Not into trouble, into courage." The badge's jaw worked. He turned to the judge. "She's been turned against her husband." Eliza's fingers tightened around the notebook. She felt Rosie stir. She felt the old pull again, to apologize, to soften. She did not. "I wasn't turned," she said. "I was broken." The word fell and did not shatter. The judge raised a hand. "You'll answer when asked." "Yes, sir," Eliza said. The deputy stood then, slow. His hat stayed on the bench. "I brought the papers," he said. "I noticed the seal." He stopped, swallowed. "I've seen the proper stamp. This isn't it." The room shifted. The badge turned on him. "You're done," he said. "Maybe," the deputy said, "but not today." The judge leaned back. He took the seal in his fingers and pressed it gently, then harder. The wax crumbled. "This court will not move a woman and children on paper that falls apart," he said. "We'll adjourn until morning." The badge struck the rail with his fist. "You can't." "I can," the judge said, and the gavel came down. "Clear the room." The benches scraped. Eliza felt the floor under her feet again. Calder stepped to her side and stopped a pace away, close enough to steady without touching. He lifted the lantern and held it low so she could see her step. Outside, the square breathed. The wreath on the church door had slipped again and hung crooked, its ribbon frayed. Eliza noticed it and almost laughed. She did not. They walked the road back together without speaking. Dust followed and fell away. When the ranch came into view, Eliza's shoulders dropped for the first time that day. Inside, she set Rosie down and leaned her forehead against the table. Calder stood by the door. "You don't have to," he said. She straightened. "I do." He nodded. "Then we plan." The night brought wind. It found the cracks and sang low. Eliza sat with the notebook open, copying the clerk's mark, the judge's note, the way the seal failed when pressed. Calder worked iron until the sparks dwindled. He brought her tea and set it down without comment. A knock came late. The deputy stood on the porch, hat off, eyes tired. "They'll try again at dawn," he said, "with men." Eliza did not ask how many. Calder did not ask where. The deputy looked at Rosie, then away. "If you leave tonight—" "No," Eliza said. The deputy nodded as if he had expected that. He left without another word. When the house settled, Calder took his coat. "I'll be in the barn." Eliza surprised herself. "Stay," she said. The word felt like a bridge laid plank by plank. He stayed by the hearth, a careful distance. They did not sleep. The children did, breathing slow and sure. Before dawn, Eliza folded a page and slid it into her bodice. She wrapped Rosie and stepped outside. Frost caught the edge of the trough. Calder followed her to the gate. "They'll come," he said. "I know." "I can stand there," he said. "Say nothing." "That's enough," she said. The road filled with hooves as the sky lightened. The men did not dismount. The badge rode at their head. He smiled like a man who had already decided. "Last chance," he called. "Bring them out!" Eliza stepped forward with Rosie. Calder did not move. He stood where he was, hands empty. "This ends today," Eliza said. The badge laughed. "It ends how it always ends." She reached into her bodice and held up the page. "Not like that." The men leaned in despite themselves. Calder lifted the lantern and set it on the ground between them, the flame steady in the gray. Eliza read, slow and clear, the clerk's mark, the judge's note, the way the seal failed under pressure. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. A horse snorted. One man looked away. The badge spurred forward. Calder stepped once, just once, into the space between. He did not raise his hands. He did not touch his gun. "Enough," he said. The word carried. It landed and held. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the badge reined back. "This isn't over," he said again, weaker this time. Eliza met his eyes. It is, she said, for my girls. The riders turned. Dust lifted and fell. The sun cleared the hill. Eliza felt the weight in her chest loosen, not gone but bearable. Calder picked up the lantern. He did not smile. Inside, Eliza laid the notebook on the table and closed it. She looked at Calder, at Rosie, at the door. There will be a hearing, she said. They'll ask where I belong. Calder nodded. And what will you say? She breathed. I'll choose. The question hung, open as a gate. The hearing was set for noon, when the light showed everything it touched. Eliza washed her hands and left the water running until the cold bit. She dried them on her skirt and reached for the notebook. The paper inside had softened to her shape. She tucked it close and lifted Rosie, who woke and watched the room as if counting it. Calder hitched the wagon without a word. He checked the cinch twice and left the lantern hanging on its hook. Daylight, he said, as if that settled it. It doesn't, Eliza answered. He nodded. They took the main road. People saw them coming and did not step aside. A few followed. A few turned away. At the square, the clerk rang the bell once and then again. It sounded like winter metal. Eliza noticed the wreath on the church door had been righted. Someone had taken the trouble. Inside, the benches filled. The judge sat forward, hands folded. The man with the badge stood near the rail, his smile practiced back into place. Eliza felt the old weight try to press her shoulders down. She stood anyway. State your name, the judge said. Eliza, she answered. She did not give the rest. And the child? My daughter, Eliza said. Rosie. The judge nodded. You're here by choice? Yes, sir. The badge stepped in. Your Honor, she was removed unlawfully. She's been kept from her husband. Eliza waited. When the judge looked to her, she spoke. I left, she said. I took my children and left. You're asking this court to believe, the badge began. I'm asking it to listen, Eliza said. The words surprised her with their steadiness. The judge lifted a hand. We will. He looked at Calder. You are accused of harboring. Calder stepped forward and stopped at the rail. If shelter is a crime, he said, then I'm guilty. Why? The judge asked. Calder did not look at Eliza when he answered. Because the night was cold. The room breathed. The badge scoffed. Fine words, he said, but the law isn't warmed by them. Eliza opened the notebook. She did not rush. I brought what the law likes, she said. Paper. She laid the pages out. The clerk leaned in. The judge leaned in. The seal was wrong in the same way it had always been wrong. Eliza pressed it with her thumb until it gave. This stamp, she said, fails under pressure. Real ones don't. The badge laughed again, too loud. You expect us to trust a woman who admits she can read? Eliza met the judge's eyes. I expect you to trust your hands, she said. Press it. The judge did. The wax cracked. The room shifted. The midwife stood when called. She spoke of bruises that came after birth, of hands that should have known better. She did not look at the badge. The older woman with the cane spoke next. She told of letters learned and books returned. She told of girls who stopped shrinking when Eliza spoke. The badge's face flushed. This is a circus, he said. She's turned them all. Eliza felt the old pull again. to soften the truth. She didn't. I didn't turn anyone, she said. I stood up. I am still standing. The judge held up the paper again. There's more, he said. The clerk's mark. The date. Eliza nodded. The day it was signed, the clerk was in the hills, she said. The ledger shows it. The clerk swallowed. It does. The badge's smile failed him. He took a step back and another. The judge's voice stayed even. This court does not move families on paper that lies. The gavel fell. We recess. Outside, the square broke into sound. Eliza's legs shook. Calder stood close and did not touch her. He waited until she breathed again. They went back to the wagon. The badge followed them to the steps and stopped. His voice was low. You think this ends me? Eliza turned. I think it ends today. He laughed, thin. We'll see. They left town under a sky that had learned to hold blue. At the ranch, Eliza fed Rosie and set her down. The house felt changed, as if it had listened and decided something. Calder took the hammer to the anvil and worked until the sound steadied him. Eliza copied the judge's words into the notebook. She copied them twice. That evening, the deputy came, hat off. There'll be a ruling, he said, soon. He looked at Rosie and smiled once, small. For what it's worth. For what it's worth, Eliza said back. Night came with wind. Calder lit the lantern and set it on the table. Eliza noticed a sprig of green tied to the post outside, simple and stubborn. Someone had left it. She touched it and felt foolish and grateful at the same time. They ate. The children slept. Calder took his coat. Stay, Eliza said again. The word felt less like a bridge and more like a floor. He stayed. The knock came late, a different rhythm. Eliza opened the door and found a man with a folded paper and eyes that would not meet hers. Decision, he said. She took it and closed the door. The paper shook in her hand. Calder waited, his face unreadable. Eliza read once. She read again. Her breath left her. They say I'm free, she said. Free to choose where I live. Calder nodded. And the children? With me, she said. Wherever I go. Silence held. Eliza felt the weight shift again, this time into her hands. There's more, she said. He waited. They set conditions, she said. They want assurances. Of what? That the girls will be educated, Eliza said. That there will be witnesses. Calder's mouth curved, not a smile. We can do that. Eliza looked at him. They asked who would stand with me. Calder met her eyes. I will. She folded the paper. They'll ask why. He answered without thinking. Because it's right. She shook her head. That won't be enough. He considered. Then we'll give them more. Outside, the wind lifted the green sprig and set it back. The lantern hissed. Eliza held Rosie and felt the future weigh in her arms. She looked at Calder and said the thing she had not planned. If they ask me to bind my life to yours, she said, careful, I won't do it to be saved. He did not flinch. I wouldn't take it that way. Then if I choose it, she said, it will be because I want to stay. He nodded. That's the only way. The house settled. Eliza set the notebook on the table and closed it. She reached for the lantern and pushed it closer. "Tomorrow," she said, "they'll ask me to speak." Calder's voice was steady. "And what will you say?" Eliza looked at Rosie, at the door, at the light between them. "I'll say I'm choosing," she said. The word waited, open as a promise. The morning came with a hard, clean cold that made breath visible. Eliza stood at the basin and washed her face until her skin stung, then braided her hair with hands that did not shake. Rosie watched from the basket, eyes dark and steady, as if she understood the weight of days. Eliza wrapped the baby and pressed her cheek to the small warmth for one counted breath. Outside, Calder waited by the wagon. He did not offer his arm. He held the reins and looked down the road like a man measuring distance instead of fate. The lantern stayed on its hook. Daylight again, pretending to be enough. They drove into town without hurry. The square was already awake. Boots scraped. Voices dipped when they passed and rose again behind them. Eliza felt the old instinct to bow her head and did not. She kept her eyes level and her steps even. Inside the hall, the benches filled fast. The judge took his seat and laid a folded paper to one side. The clerk stood ready. Eliza sat once, then stood again when her name was called. She did not look back for Calder, though she felt him there, a presence that did not lean. "Ma'am," the judge said, "you're here to speak." "Yes, sir," Eliza answered. "You understand the conditions," he said. "You're free to choose where you live. You're free to take your children. This court asks only that their welfare be secured and witnessed." Eliza nodded. She held Rosie closer. The room quieted in the way rooms do when they expect a plea. The man with the badge stood near the rail, hands folded. He smiled like a habit that had not yet learned it was broken. Eliza felt the old heat in her chest rise and settle. "Speak," the judge said. Eliza did not rush. She opened the notebook and closed it again without reading. She looked at the bench, then at the faces beyond. "I was taught to be quiet," she said. "I was taught that quiet keeps peace." She paused. "It kept bruises." A murmur stirred and stilled. "I won't ask you to save me," she said. "I'm not asking to be taken anywhere." She lifted her chin. "I'm telling you where I will stand." The badge laughed once. "Hear that? She thinks she chooses." Eliza did not turn. "I choose," she said. The words did not waver. The judge leaned forward. "Where?" Eliza took one breath and let it go. "I will live at the ranch beyond the hills," she said. "I will work there. I will teach there. My girls will be fed, clothed, and taught to read. Anyone who wishes may witness it." The clerk's pen scratched. The judge's eyes went to Calder at the back. "And the man?" Eliza did not look at him yet. "He offers shelter," she said. "He asks for nothing." The badge stepped forward. "That's a lie." Eliza turned then. She met his eyes. "It's the truth," she said, "and that's what you don't recognize." The judge raised a hand. "Enough." He looked at Calder. "Do you consent to these conditions?" Calder stepped forward to the rail and stopped. "Yes, sir," he said, "and more." The room leaned in. "I'll put my name to it," he said. "Wages for her work, schooling for the children, open doors. Anyone can come and see." The judge nodded slowly. You understand what you're offering. Calder did not look at Eliza. I do. The badge's smile snapped. This is an arrangement, he said. That's marriage by other name. Eliza felt the word strike and slide. She did not flinch. No, she said. It's work. The judge's mouth twitched. The court does not object to work, he said, nor to choice. He reached for the folded paper and opened it. This court recognizes Eliza as free to choose her residence and labor. The children remain with her. Conditions as stated. He lifted the gavel. So ordered. The sound fell and held. Outside, the square loosened. People spoke again. Some smiled. Some did not. Eliza felt a lightness that frightened her more than fear had. She stepped down and nearly missed the last stare. Calder's hand hovered and then fell away when she steadied herself. They walked together to the wagon. The badge followed, close enough for his breath to carry. You think paper will keep you, he said. Eliza stopped and turned. No, she said. People will. He laughed, thin. We'll see. At the ranch, the day unfolded like a thing learning its own shape. Eliza cooked. Calder worked iron. The children ran the fence and counted posts. By noon, a woman came with a basket and eyes that watched the door. Eliza welcomed her in and poured coffee. Another came after. Then a man with a hat in his hands, awkward and earnest, who asked about lessons. By afternoon, the table held slates and chalk. Eliza set them out without ceremony. She taught letters the way she had learned them, patient and exact. Calder listened from the barn, the ring of iron keeping time. I have a voice now. Near dusk, the deputy rode in alone. He dismounted and held out a paper. For your records, he said, the badge has been relieved pending inquiry. Eliza took it and nodded. Thank you. He looked at Rosie and smiled. She'll be fine, he said, and rode away. That night, Calder set the lantern on the table and did not move it closer or farther. Eliza noticed the care and felt something settle. They ate in quiet. The children slept in a heap of blankets, breath even. There will be talk, Calder said. There always is, Eliza answered. He waited. About us. Eliza held the cup and watched steam lift and vanish. If I choose anything, she said, it won't be because the town wants a shape it recognizes. He nodded. I wouldn't accept it that way. She looked at him then. If I choose to stay, she said, careful, it will be because staying feels like truth. Calder's eyes did not leave hers. That's the only way I know. The knock came late and light. Adelaide stood on the porch with a bundle under her arm. For the girls, she said, and for you. Inside the bundle were books with cracked spines and a small wreath tied with twine. Eliza touched the green and smiled despite herself. Thank you. After Adelaide left, Eliza hung the wreath by the door. It was crooked. She straightened it and then tipped it back the smallest amount. Calder took his coat. I'll be in the barn. Stay, Eliza said. Not a command, not a plea. He stayed. Later, when the house was quiet and the fire low, Eliza opened the notebook and wrote one line, then closed it. She set it aside and reached for the lantern, pushing it closer so the light touched both of them. Tomorrow, she said, they'll come to see if I keep my word. Calder nodded. We will. She held Rosie and felt the future settle like weight and warmth together. She looked at Calder and spoke the thing she had been carrying. "If they ask me to bind my life to yours," she said, "it will be because I choose you." He did not move. He did not speak for a moment. Then, "If you choose," he said, "I'll stand." Eliza watched the flame and felt it hold. Outside, the wind lifted the wreath and set it back. The door stayed shut. The choice stayed open. The next morning did not rush them. It came slow, like a hand laid careful on the shoulder. Eliza rose before the light finished deciding and moved through the house without waking the children. She fed the fire. She rinsed the cups. She stood at the table and pressed her palm flat against the wood, grounding herself in something solid. Outside, frost traced the fence again. Calder was already awake, mending a gate hinge with wire and patience. He did not look up when she stepped onto the porch. He waited until she spoke. "Sir," she said, because the words still mattered. "Yes, ma'am." "They'll come today," she said, "to see." He nodded. "Then they'll see." She went back inside and woke the girls gently. They dressed themselves without being told, hands sure in a way that told Eliza something had shifted. Rosie watched it all from the basket, eyes tracking motion, calm where she had once been sharp. Eliza wrapped her and felt the small breath warm her collarbone. By mid-morning, the road carried voices. Not riders this time. Walkers. Boots that had learned to stop at doors instead of kicking them. The first woman came alone, hat in her hands, eyes skimming the floor. Eliza poured coffee. They sat. No one spoke for a full minute. "I heard you teach," the woman said finally. "I do," Eliza answered. The woman nodded and left. Another came, then two together. A man lingered at the threshold until Calder stepped back and made space. Eliza set out slates and chalk. The girls lined up the way children do when they want to be seen trying. Letters took shape, crooked and proud. Calder kept to the barn, the ring of iron steady and far enough to say this was not a performance. When he came in for water, he stayed by the door and did not cross the room. Eliza noticed. She always did. At noon, a rider stopped at the gate and dismounted slow. The deputy stood with his hat off. "Just checking," he said, eyes taking in the open door, the table crowded with chalk dust and hands. "You can," Eliza said. He did. He nodded once and left. The afternoon brought quiet again. Eliza cleaned the slates and stacked them neat. She wrote wages in the ledger and signed her name without looking at it. She felt the small satisfaction of ink laid straight. "I can stay." Near dusk, the wind shifted. It carried a sound that did not belong. Hooves, yes, but not many. One rider. Eliza felt the old tightness bloom and then settle when she saw who it was. The banker dismounted, coat brushed, watch chain catching the light. "I won't stay long," he said, as if that were kindness. "Then say it," Eliza replied. He smiled thin. "Debts don't vanish because a court grows sentimental." Calder stepped to the gate, empty-handed. "State your business." The banker flicked dust from his sleeve. "I'm here to collect what's owed." "By whom?" Eliza asked. He turned to her. "By the household." Eliza looked at Calder. He did not speak. She faced the banker again. "Name the sum." He did. It was a number meant to break the breath. Eliza did not flinch. "I'll pay it." Calder said. No, Eliza said at the same time. The banker smiled at the conflict like a man warming his hands. Eliza stepped forward. I'll pay it, she said. In work, in time, under my name. The banker laughed. A woman's name carries thin. Eliza met his eyes. Then watch it thicken. Calder's jaw tightened. He did not argue. He waited. The banker shrugged. Terms, he said. Interest. Eliza nodded. Fair ones. The banker named them. They were not fair. Eliza felt the pull to accept anyway. She did not. Those terms buy silence, she said. I won't. The banker studied her, then Calder, then the house with its open door. You're making enemies, he said. I already have them, Eliza answered. He mounted and rode off without shaking hands. The gate stayed shut. Night came early. Calder lit the lantern and set it where it always went. Eliza cooked with steady hands. The children ate and slept. The house felt smaller and stronger for it. Later, Calder stood by the hearth and cleared his throat. About the debt, he said. Eliza did not look up. We'll handle it. Together, he said, and stopped. She met his eyes. Together doesn't mean over me. I know, he said. It means beside. She nodded once. That was enough. A knock came late. Eliza opened the door to find Adelaide with a bundle of papers. Witnesses, she said, and names, people willing to speak if they're needed. Eliza took them and pressed Adelaide's hand. Thank you. After she left, Eliza laid the papers out and sorted them. She worked until the lantern burned low. Calder watched without interrupting. Why do you do that? She asked suddenly, not looking up. Do what? Wait, she said. Let me finish. He considered. Because I don't need to be first, he said. I need to be steady. She felt the truth of it land. The wind rose and found the wreath. It bumped the door once and settled. Eliza went and straightened it again. She hesitated, then left it a touch crooked. When the house was quiet, Calder took his coat. Stay, Eliza said. He did. They sat at the table, the lantern between them. Eliza opened the notebook and wrote another line, then another. She closed it and rested her hand on the cover. There's one more thing, she said. He waited. If the court asks me to marry you, she said, to make this easier, I won't ask it, he said. I know, she said. But if they ask me, he leaned back, giving her space. Then you say what's true. She nodded. What's true is this place is the first one that didn't demand my silence. Calder's voice was quiet. And I don't want to lose that, she said. He looked at the flame. You won't. Outside, a horse passed on the road and did not stop, and the night held. Eliza felt the future shift again, not into certainty, but into something she could carry. Before sleep took the house, Eliza went to the door and looked out. The barn stood dark and solid. The gate held. She closed the door and set the latch. I'm here, she said, to no one and to herself. The lantern hissed once and steadied. Snow came in the night without asking. It laid itself thin and honest over the yard, over the fence rails, over the path that led to the road. Eliza woke to the quiet that only snow brings, the kind that makes a house feel held. She lay still and counted breaths until the fear that came with new quiet loosened its grip. Rosie stirred and settled. Eliza rose and fed the fire. The flame took slowly, then steadied. Outside, the barn door creaked once. Calder was already up. By the time the children woke, flakes were falling again, soft and determined. Eliza wrapped scarves and pulled boots on small feet, hands quick and practiced. She opened the door and let the cold touch them once, just to prove it would not bite unless invited. "Letters first," she said. They sat at the table and traced lines while snow whispered at the windows. Chalk scratched. A crooked R earned a careful nod. Calder passed the doorway and paused, listening, then went on. Near mid-morning, the road changed its sound. Hooves, more than one. Eliza felt it before she saw it, a tightening that moved from her ribs to her throat. She closed the book and stood. Calder came in and took his coat from the hook. "Stay here," he said. "No," Eliza answered. She lifted Rosie and stepped to the door. 3 riders stopped at the gate. The man with the badge sat in the middle again, his coat darker, his mouth set. Snow caught on his shoulders and did not melt. "You've had your time," he called. "We're done being patient." Calder stopped at the fence, hands empty. "You're early." "Court moved," the badge said. "I have authority." Eliza stepped beside Calder and felt the old pull to let him stand alone. She did not. "Show it," she said. The badge laughed and held up a paper. Snow dampened its edges. Eliza did not take it. She watched the seal. "That seal won't hold," she said. "You know it." The badge's eyes flicked once. "Enough," he said. "Bring the children out." The girls pressed against Eliza's skirts. Rosie cried, sharp and sudden. The sound cut the morning. Calder did not move. "No," he said. The riders shifted. One put a hand near his holster and stopped when Calder's gaze settled on him, calm and unmoving. "I warned you," the badge said. Eliza stepped forward until she felt the fence rail at her back. She held Rosie higher. "You warned me of what you are," she said. "I listened." The badge's face reddened. "This is disorder." Eliza shook her head. "This is daylight." Snow fell harder. The world narrowed to breath and sound. A 4th rider came then, slow, careful. The deputy dismounted and stood apart. He did not take off his hat. "Sir," he said to the badge, "there's a stay." The badge turned on him. "By whom?" "By the judge," the deputy said. He held out a paper with a seal that pressed deep and true. "Effective immediately." The badge stared. Snow gathered on his lashes. "You're lying." The deputy did not answer. He waited. The badge tore the paper from his hand and pressed the seal hard with his thumb. It held. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the badge crumpled the paper and threw it into the snow. "This isn't finished," he said again, but the words had lost their weight. Eliza felt the tightness break. She did not let herself sag. She waited until the riders turned and went. The deputy stayed. He looked at Eliza and then at the girls. "There'll be a hearing," he said. "Final." "When?" Eliza asked. "Soon," he said. "Before this gets worse." Calder nodded. "Thank you." The deputy hesitated. "Be careful," he said to Eliza, and rode away. The snow eased. Eliza closed the door and leaned her forehead against it for one counted breath. "I am still here." They spent the day readying what could be readied. Eliza copied dates and names until her fingers ached. Calder split wood and stacked it neat. The children made paper chains from scraps and hung them by the window, quiet color against white. By late afternoon, a woman came with a basket and left it without stepping inside. Another followed and stayed to drink coffee. By dusk, the table held bread and jars and hands that lingered. The night brought a different knock. Eliza opened the door to Adelaide, breathless, snow in her hair. "They're pushing," she said. "They want to force the question." Eliza closed the door and set the latch. "Then we answer it." They sat by the lantern. The flame wavered once and steadied. "If they ask," Eliza said, "I will speak." Calder watched her. "You don't owe them anything." "I owe myself," she said. He nodded. The hearing came 2 days later. The snow melted to slush, and the road grew ugly. Eliza wrapped Rosie and took the notebook. Calder hitched the wagon. The children walked between them, boots sinking and lifting again. Inside the hall, the benches filled fast. The judge looked tired. The badge stood stiff, his smile gone. "Eliza," the judge said, "you're here to answer." "Yes, sir," she said. The badge stepped forward. "This arrangement has stirred unrest," he said. "It should be ended cleanly." Eliza opened the notebook. "Clean doesn't mean quiet," she said. The judge held up a hand. "Speak." Eliza did. She spoke of nights cold and silent, of days counted and weighed. She spoke of work and letters and open doors. She did not speak of love. When she finished, the room did not rush to fill the space. The judge looked at Calder. "And you?" Calder stepped forward. "I offered shelter," he said. "I offered work, nothing more." The badge laughed, hollow. "You'd bind her if it suited you." Calder did not look at him. "I would not bind anyone." The judge leaned back. "The court will not bind her either," he said. "But it will ask." He turned to Eliza. "If the simplest path is offered," he said, "what will you choose?" The room leaned in. Eliza felt the old fear rise, the one that said survival costs truth. She breathed and let it pass. "I will not choose a cage," she said. "I will choose a home." "And where is that?" the judge asked. Eliza looked at Calder then, not to ask, but to tell. "Where my voice is not a debt," she said. "Where my girls learn their names before fear." The judge nodded slowly. "Then we'll make room for that." The gavel fell. Outside, the sky had learned blue again. Eliza stood on the steps and felt the air fill her lungs. Calder waited beside her. "They'll keep watching," he said. "Let them," Eliza answered. They drove back under a sun that warmed without promise. At the ranch, Eliza set Rosie down and went to the table. She opened the notebook and tore out a page. She folded it and set it between them. "What's that?" Calder asked. "A condition," she said. "Mine." He waited. "If I choose more," she said, steady, "it will be after the hearing is finished, after the watching stops." Calder nodded. "That's right." She pushed the paper closer. "Read it later," she said. He did not touch it. I will. That night, snow fell again, light and brief. Eliza hung the paper chains higher. She set the lantern down and did not move it. Outside, the gate held. Inside, the house breathed. Eliza stood by the window and watched the snow melt as it fell. She felt the shape of the next choice forming, not as fear, but as weight she could lift. Tomorrow, she thought, and closed the curtain. The watching did not stop. It softened, learned manners, stood back where it could pretend to be concern. Eliza felt it in the way footsteps slowed at the gate, in the pauses that followed her name. She kept her hands busy and her eyes level. She rose before the fire again. Snow had thinned to a crust and cracked underfoot. Calder was at the fence, setting a post true with the level he trusted more than words. He did not look up when she stepped onto the porch. He waited. I wrote something, Eliza said. Yes, ma'am. It isn't an answer, she said. It's a boundary. He set the level aside and turned. Then it's useful. They worked through the morning without ceremony. Eliza taught letters and sums. She paid wages to herself and recorded them clean. Calder split wood and left it stacked where anyone could count it. When a neighbor came, Eliza poured coffee and asked her to sit. When another came, Calder stepped back and made room. Near noon, the banker returned, alone this time, his horse restless in the cold. He did not cross the gate. I hear the court favors you, he said. The court favors paper that tells the truth, Eliza replied. He smiled thin. Truth doesn't settle accounts. Work does, Eliza said. He glanced at Calder. And if the work isn't enough? Eliza did not answer at once. She felt the old pull to accept what made things quieter. She did not. Then I'll find more, she said. The banker's eyes flicked to the house, to the children's chalk marks on the window pane. There are easier ways, he said. Eliza met his gaze. Not for me. He mounted and rode off without tipping his hat. The gate stayed shut. That afternoon, the deputy came on foot. He stopped at the threshold and did not step inside. They're tired, he said, of this. Good, Eliza answered. They'll ask again, he said. Soon, to make it simple. Eliza nodded. Simple for whom? The deputy did not answer. He took off his hat, then put it back on. Be ready, he said, and left. At dusk, Calder lit the lantern and set it where it belonged. Eliza noticed a sprig of green tucked into the latch, newer than the last, tied with twine. She touched it and felt something in her chest ease without explanation. The children slept early. Eliza sat at the table with the notebook open. She wrote and crossed out, then wrote again. When she finished, she folded the page and slid it back into the cover. May I? Calder asked. Not yet, she said, and smiled despite herself. Later. He waited. I am learning to wait too. The knock came late, firm and official. Eliza opened the door to a messenger with a sealed envelope. She took it and closed the door before opening it. The seal held. Tomorrow, she said after reading. They want a declaration. Calder nodded. I'll stand wherever you ask. I know, she said. They did not sleep much. When morning came, it came bright and brittle. Eliza washed and braided her hair. She dressed Rosie and pressed a kiss to her head, then to each sleeping girl. She left the wreath crooked. They took the wagon. People filled the square early. The judge looked older than he had days before. The banker sat near the back, hands folded. The badge did not appear. "Eliza," the judge said, "you're here to declare." "Yes, sir." "You understand the simplest path," he said. "A binding arrangement would settle the matter." Eliza did not look at Calder. "I understand what settles appearances," she said, "not what settles a life." A murmur moved and stilled. The judge's voice softened. "Speak plainly." Eliza took the folded page from her notebook and held it, not opening it. "I will not bind myself to end trouble," she said. "I will bind myself only if it is chosen." The judge nodded slowly. "And if you choose not to?" "Then I stay where I am," Eliza said. "I work, I teach, I pay what I owe." The banker shifted. "And if that isn't enough?" Eliza turned to him. "Then it won't be because I hid." The judge looked to Calder. "And you?" Calder stepped forward. He did not touch the rail. "I offered shelter," he said. "I offered wages. I will offer nothing else unless asked." The judge held the silence a moment longer. "The court cannot compel a choice," he said. "It can only record one." He turned back to Eliza. "Do you have one to record?" Eliza breathed. She felt the room lean in. She felt the old fear rise and fall away. "I choose to stay," she said. "Here, as I am." The gavel fell, light this time. So recorded. Outside, the square loosened again. Eliza's legs shook and steadied. Calder waited a pace away. They drove back under a sky that kept its distance. At the ranch, Eliza fed Rosie and set her down. She opened the notebook and laid the folded page on the table. "Now," she said. Calder did not rush. He unfolded it and read. He read it twice. "It says," he began. "It says," Eliza said, "that if I choose more, it will be because the watching has ended and the work has begun. It says I won't be asked to trade safety for silence. It says my girls come first." Calder nodded. "It's fair." "It also says," she added, "that if I choose more, it won't be to make the town comfortable." He looked up. "I wouldn't accept it that way." She watched his face and believed him. She folded the paper again and set it aside. The afternoon passed in steady things. Eliza taught letters. Calder fixed a hinge. The children made a paper star and taped it to the window. It leaned. At dusk, Adelaide came with a basket and a quiet smile. "They're talking," she said, "but softer." "That's all I ask," Eliza answered. After supper, Calder stood by the door with his coat in hand. "I'll be in the barn." "Stay," Eliza said. He stayed. They sat with the lantern between them. The flame held. Eliza felt the weight of the day settle into something she could carry. "There's one more thing," she said. He waited. "The watching will stop," she said. "And when it does, I won't rush you," he said. She nodded. "I won't hide." Outside, the wind found the wreath and set it moving, then still. Eliza reached for the lantern and pushed it a touch closer. "Tomorrow," she said, "they'll expect me to be done." Calder's voice was steady. "We won't be." She looked at him and felt the next choice take shape, not as fear, but as ground she could stand on. The watching thinned, then sharpened again. It learned patience. Eliza felt it in the way the road stayed empty too long, in the quiet that followed a name spoken once and not answered. She rose before the fire and packed nothing but sense. Rosie slept through it. Eliza stood over the basket and counted the baby's breaths until the ache behind her eyes eased. She kissed the soft crown once, then again, and wrapped the child in the quilt with the 3 stitched flowers. She laid the notebook on the table and did not open it. Calder was at the trough, breaking ice. He looked up when he heard the door. "I'm going," Eliza said. He did not ask where. "When?" "Now." The word sat between them and did not ask permission. He wiped his hands on his trousers. "I'll hitch." "No," she said. "If you go with me, they'll make it a thing." She lifted the quilt. "This is my choice." He searched her face and found no space to argue. "I'll be here," he said. "I know," she answered, and it sounded like goodbye. She stepped onto the road, while the sky was still gray enough to hide her. The cold found her ankles. She kept her head down and walked steady, the quilt warm against her chest. The barn stayed dark. The gate held. She did not look back. I have learned how to leave. By the bend, the eldest caught up to her, breath burning, boots too big for running. Eliza stopped. She did not scold. She knelt and wrapped the child into her coat with Rosie between them. "You're not supposed to," Eliza said. The girl pressed the quilt's edge into Eliza's palm. "You forgot," she said. Her voice did not shake. "The flowers." Eliza closed her fingers around the stitching. The road ahead narrowed. The road behind widened. "Go back," Eliza said. "No," the girl said, and held fast. They stood like that until Eliza felt the truth move through her bones. She turned them both around and walked back the way she had come. The house rose from the gray like a promise she had not meant to keep yet. Calder met them at the gate. He did not speak. He opened it. Inside, Eliza set Rosie down and sat on the floor where she stood. The child climbed into her lap and leaned her forehead against Eliza's collarbone. "I won't leave like that again," Eliza said, to the room. Calder knelt a few feet away. "You don't have to leave at all." "I know," she said, "but I needed to know I could." He nodded. "That matters." The day went on. Eliza taught letters with hands that steadied themselves by moving. Calder worked iron and did not ask questions. Near noon, a man came with a message and did not step inside. Eliza read it once and set it down. "They want another hearing," she said. "Soon." Calder nodded. "We'll be ready." By afternoon, the road carried sound again. Hooves, more than one. Eliza felt the old pull and let it pass. She stepped onto the porch with Rosie and waited. The badge rode at their head, his coat cleaner than it had been, his mouth careful. 2 men flanked him. He dismounted slow. "You left," he said, like a fact. "I returned," Eliza said. He smiled thin. "That tells me everything." Calder stood at the fence, hands empty. "State your business." The badge lifted a paper. "Final notice." Eliza did not reach for it. "You brought that before," she said. "It didn't hold." "This one will," he said. She watched the seal. It pressed deep. Her chest tightened and then eased. "Then we'll read it," she said. The badge's eyes flicked. "Tomorrow, in town." Eliza nodded. Tomorrow. He mounted and rode away without another word. Night fell clean. Eliza set the table and did not rush. The children ate and slept. Calder lit the lantern and set it between them. I tried to go, Eliza said. I saw, he answered. I came back, she said. I know. She opened the notebook and slid a page free. She did not show it to him. If tomorrow asks me to bind myself, she said, careful, I will answer in my own words. Calder's voice stayed even. Whatever you say, I'll respect. The lantern hissed once and steadied. Morning came bright and unkind. The square filled early. Eliza walked with Rosie in her arms and the notebook against her ribs. Calder followed a pace behind, far enough to let her be first. Inside, the judge waited. The banker sat with his hands folded. The badge stood straight. Eliza, the judge said, you're here again. Yes, sir. We've been asked to end this, the judge said. Cleanly. Eliza nodded. Clean doesn't frighten me, she said. Quiet does. The badge smiled. Then let's be clean. He stepped forward and spoke of order and peace, of a town that needed lines. He spoke of arrangements and names that fit boxes. When he finished, the judge looked at Eliza. You may answer. Eliza did not open the notebook. She held it closed and spoke from memory. I will not be owned, she said. I will not be hurried. I will work where I am and teach who comes. If I bind my life, it will be because I choose it, not because you prefer it. A murmur moved and stilled. The judge leaned back. And if the court suggests marriage as the simplest resolution, Eliza breathed. She felt the quilt's flowers under her fingers. She looked at Calder and then away. I won't marry to end trouble, she said. I will marry only to begin truth. The room leaned in. The judge nodded slowly. Then the court will not suggest, he said. It will record. The gavel fell. Outside, the square loosened. Eliza felt the weight lift and settle into something she could carry. At the steps, the banker spoke once, low. You're stubborn. Eliza met his eyes. I'm free. They drove back under a sky that kept its distance. At the ranch, Eliza set Rosie down and went to the table. She opened the notebook and wrote one line, then closed it. Calder stood by the door. What did you write? A reminder, she said, for when this gets loud again. He nodded. That evening, as the light faded, Calder took his coat. Stay, Eliza said, not a plea. He stayed. They sat with the lantern between them. Eliza felt the future shift again, closer now, like a door that had been there all along. Tomorrow, she said, they'll expect me to be done. Calder's voice was steady. And what will you be? Eliza looked at Rosie, at the quilt, at the light between them. Ready? She said. The word waited. The town gathered before the bell finished ringing. It was the kind of morning that showed faces plain, light clean enough to make no promises. Eliza stood at the edge of the square, with Rosie warm against her, the notebook firm beneath her hand. Calder waited a pace back, hat off, eyes steady, as if distance were another way to keep faith. Inside the hall, the judge looked thinner than he had a week ago. The banker sat with his hands folded, watch chain glinting once, and then not at all. The badge stood near the rail, shoulders squared, a man practicing stillness. The benches filled and quieted. We are here to end this, the judge said. One way or another. Eliza did not answer. She waited. The banker rose first. Your Honor, he said, voice smooth. This matter has cost the town. Trade slows when names are questioned. Order frays when arrangements are challenged. He spread his hands. There is a clean solution. The word clean moved through the room and found its mark. The badge stepped forward. A binding agreement, he said, name to name. It settles jurisdiction. It restores peace. Eliza felt the pull and let it pass. She lifted her chin. Peace that asks me to disappear isn't peace, she said. The judge raised a hand. We'll hear all sides. The banker smiled thin. Then hear this. Debts remain. Wages and lessons don't erase them. He looked at Calder. You'd pay. Calder did not look back. If she asks, he said. Eliza turned. I didn't. The banker's eyes flicked. Then the debt will follow. Eliza nodded. I know. She stepped forward and laid the notebook on the rail. I brought records, she said. Not excuses. She opened to the page she had copied 3 times, neat and balanced. Wages earned, hours taught, witnesses present. She did not raise her voice. I pay what I owe. The banker leaned in. With what margin? Eliza met his gaze. With time. The room stirred. Time was a word that frightened men who counted. The badge cleared his throat. This court can't secure time. No, Eliza said, but it can stop theft. She slid the next page forward. The seal that failed lay sketched beside one that held. These papers tried to move me by force. They failed. That matters. The judge studied the page. He pressed the seal again. It broke the way it always had. We've addressed this, the badge snapped. And it keeps returning, Eliza said, because it hasn't been answered. The judge looked at the clerk. Summon the witnesses. The midwife spoke again, brief and exact. The older woman spoke of lessons held in open rooms. The deputy stood and said little, but what he said landed. The room leaned toward truth like iron to a magnet. The banker's patience thinned. Enough, he said. This woman wants to run a school on sentiment. Eliza shook her head. On work, she said, and on names spoken plainly. The judge folded his hands. There is a cost to standing, he said. Are you prepared to pay it? Eliza breathed. Yes, sir. And you? The judge asked Calder. Calder stepped forward. If she stands, I'll stand where she asks. The banker smiled. Then pay, he said, and named the sum again, higher this time, sharpened like a blade. Eliza did not flinch. She turned to the judge. Set terms, she said. Public ones. The judge considered. The court can set a schedule, he said. Witnessed labor, recorded payment. The banker's smile faltered. That takes time. Yes, the judge said. It does. The badge shifted. And the arrangement? The judge looked at Eliza. We won't compel it. Eliza nodded. I won't accept it. Silence held. The banker leaned back, fingers tapping once. Very well, he said, but there will be a guarantee. Eliza felt the room tighten. Of what? That the debt won't vanish, he said. Eliza thought of nights counted, of mornings earned. I'll sign, she said, in my own name. Calder turned then. Eliza, she lifted a hand. I will, she said, because it's mine. The judge nodded. So recorded. The banker stood. Then let it be witnessed, he said, and slid a paper forward. Eliza read it once. Her mouth went dry. The terms were clean on the surface and sharp beneath. Interest hid, margins. Silence hid in phrasing. No, she said, and slid it back. This binds my voice. The banker's eyes hardened. Then we're done here. The judge leaned forward. Not quite. He took up a fresh sheet. This court will draft, he said. No clauses that restrict speech. No penalties that outpace labor. He looked at Eliza. You'll sign what you can live with. Eliza nodded. I will. The paper moved across the table. The clerk wrote. The judge watched. The banker watched harder. When the pen came to Eliza, her hand shook once and steadied. She signed her name and felt it hold. The judge signed. The clerk signed. Witnesses stepped forward and did the same. The banker took the paper and read it twice. His mouth tightened. We'll see, he said. Yes, Eliza answered. We will. Outside, the square breathed again. Calder walked beside Eliza, not touching. The road back felt longer and lighter at the same time. At the ranch, Eliza set the notebook down and washed her hands until the ink thinned. Calder split wood and stacked it where anyone could count. The children traced letters and laughed when chalk broke. Near dusk, the banker rode by and did not stop. The gate held. Night brought a different knock. Eliza opened the door to find the badge alone, hat in hand, eyes tired. They're done pushing, he said. For now. Eliza studied him. That doesn't make it right. He nodded once. No. He left without asking to come in. Later, Calder stood by the hearth and cleared his throat. You paid a price today, he said. Eliza looked at the flame. I paid what I owed, she said, and kept what was mine. He nodded. If it gets heavier, I'll ask, she said. He waited. And if you don't? I won't, she said, and meant it. They sat with the lantern between them. Eliza felt the day settle into her bones, not as fear, but as fatigue that earned sleep. Before bed, she opened the notebook and wrote one line. She closed it and set it aside. What did you write? Calder asked. The cost, she said, so I don't forget why it was worth it. The wind found the wreath and lifted it once. Eliza straightened it and then tipped it back, just enough. As the fire fell low, Calder took his coat. Stay, Eliza said. He stayed. They sat in the quiet and listened to the house hold them. Eliza felt the next weight approaching, not as threat, but as choice pressing closer. Tomorrow, she said, they'll test the terms. Calder's voice was steady. And after that? Eliza looked at Rosie sleeping, at the table, at the light. After that, she said, they'll test me. The door waited. The testing came quieter than expected. It arrived as questions asked too politely, as visits timed to daylight, as numbers checked twice and sighed over. Eliza felt it in the way the ledger was held a fraction longer, in the pauses before a name was written. She answered with work. She rose early and taught letters until the chalk wore thin. She cooked and counted and stitched until the day made sense. Calder stacked iron and split wood where anyone could see. The gate stayed open. The door stayed unlocked. The watching learned to stand back. By the third day, the banker sent a man with a clipboard and a careful smile. He counted posts and boards and hours. He did not cross the threshold. Eliza poured coffee anyway and set it on the rail. The man hesitated, then took it. "Your totals are accurate," he said, surprised. "They usually are," Eliza replied. He nodded and wrote. The page filled. When he left, he tipped his hat to the children. The deputy came after supper and leaned on the fence. "They'll try a different way," he said. "Words instead of papers." Eliza nodded. "I've learned to hear the difference." That night, Calder took his coat as usual and paused. "If it costs more, I'll tell you," Eliza said. He stayed. The morning the truth was asked for arrived with wind. It pushed the clouds hard enough to open a seam of blue. Eliza felt it before the knock. When she opened the door, the judge stood there without ceremony, hat in his hands. "May I?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Eliza said, and stepped aside. He did not sit. He looked at the table, the slates, the ledger. "The town wants certainty," he said. "It's asking for a statement." Eliza folded her hands. "About what?" "About you," he said. "About him." He nodded toward Calder, who remained by the door, silent. "About permanence." Eliza felt the old heat rise and settle. "Permanence isn't a paper," she said. "No," the judge agreed. "But people ask for it anyway." "What kind of statement?" Eliza asked. "One that ends rumor," he said. "One that binds nothing but names." Eliza thought of the clause she had refused. She thought of nights counted and mornings earned. "I won't lie," she said. "I didn't ask you to," the judge replied. Eliza turned to Calder. She did not ask permission. She did not seek rescue. "If I speak," she said, "it will cost me." Calder's voice was quiet. "Then I'll stand where you ask." She nodded once and faced the judge again. "When?" "Now," he said. They walked together to the square. The bell rang once and stopped. People gathered without being called. The banker stood near the back, watch chain still. The badge was not there. The judge stepped aside. "Speak," he said. Eliza took one step forward and felt the wind lift her hair. She did not raise her voice. She did not hurry. "I've been asked for certainty," she said. "I can give only what is true." She held up the ledger. "I work here. I teach here. My children are safe here." She paused. "I do not belong to this place. I choose it." A murmur moved and stilled. "I will not bind myself to end your discomfort," she continued. "I will bind myself only to work and to truth." She looked across the faces she knew now. "If that is not enough for you, then nothing I sign will be." The banker shifted. The judge did not. Eliza turned then, not to Calder, but to the space beside him. "I will say this," she said. "The man who offered me shelter did not ask for silence. He did not ask for my name. He did not ask for my body." She stopped. "That matters." The wind ran through the square and fell away. The judge nodded once. "It does." The banker cleared his throat. "And if the town asks for more?" Eliza met his gaze. Then the town will have to learn to ask better. The judge lifted his hand. That will be recorded. After, the square loosened. People did not rush to leave. Some came close enough to be counted. A woman pressed Eliza's hand and said nothing. A man nodded once and walked away. Back at the ranch, Eliza set the ledger down and leaned against the table until the day stopped shaking. Calder stood near and did not touch her. "You spent something," he said. "I did," she answered. "Do you regret it?" She thought of the words leaving her mouth and finding air. "No," she said. "I can earn more." That evening, the banker came alone and stopped at the gate. "You've made yourself expensive," he said. Eliza smiled without humor. "I've made myself clear." He looked past her at the house. "Clarity draws lines." "Yes," she said. "It does." He mounted and rode away without looking back. Night came with stars, sharp as pins. Eliza hung the wreath again, crooked and stubborn. The children slept. Calder took his coat. "Stay," Eliza said. He stayed. They sat with the lantern between them, the flame steady. Eliza opened the notebook and tore out a page. She folded it once and slid it across the table. "This is the rest," she said. Calder did not touch it. "You don't have to." "I want to," she said. "So you know." He unfolded it and read. His face did not change. When he finished, he set it down gently. "It asks for time," he said. "It asks for patience," Eliza corrected, "and honesty." He nodded. "I can give those." She breathed. "There's one more thing." He waited. "If they come again," she said, "and ask me to choose in public, I won't speak for you," he said. She smiled, small and real. "Thank you." Outside, a horse passed on the road and did not stop. The gate held. Before bed, Eliza wrote one last line in the notebook and closed it. She set it on the shelf beside the books. "What did you write?" Calder asked. "The truth," she said, "so I don't spend it twice." The lantern hissed once and steadied. Eliza felt the next step approaching, not as threat, but as a weight that asked to be lifted together. "Tomorrow," she said, "they'll expect an ending." Calder's voice was steady. "And what will you give them?" Eliza looked at Rosie sleeping, at the table worn smooth, at the light. "A beginning," she said. The word stayed. The ending did not arrive with ceremony. It came like morning usually does. Quiet, sure, unavoidable. Eliza woke before the fire and lay still, listening to the house breathe. The wind had settled. Snow lingered only in the shadows where it chose to stay. Rosie slept warm against her arm, a small weight that anchored everything else. Eliza did not rise at once. She let the day come to her. When she did stand, the floor felt familiar beneath her feet. She fed the fire. She set the kettle. Outside, Calder was already awake, checking the fence line where a board had loosened. He did not look toward the house until he finished what he was doing. They ate without hurry. The children laughed over bread torn uneven. Chalk dust still clung to the table from yesterday's lessons. Eliza wiped it away with her sleeve and did not apologize. By mid-morning, the road brought a wagon. Not fast, not loud. It stopped at the gate and waited. Eliza felt the moment settle into her chest. She lifted Rosie and stepped onto the porch. Calder stood a pace behind her, hat off, hands empty. The judge climbed down and nodded once. He held no papers. "I won't stay long," he said. "You're welcome to," Eliza answered. He shook his head. "I came to close a book." Eliza waited. "The town has watched," the judge said. "It has asked. It has been answered." He looked at the open door, the table, the marks of use. No further hearings, no conditions beyond those already recorded. Eliza let the words land. She did not reach for relief. She let it come. "And the debt?" she asked. The judge nodded. "Your payments stand. Public. Witnessed." He paused. "The banker has withdrawn interest." Eliza lifted an eyebrow. "Voluntarily?" The judge's mouth twitched. He decided it was cheaper. She accepted that and nothing more. The judge looked at Calder then. "You were named," he said. Calder did not step forward. "I was present." "Yes," the judge said. "That will remain the record." He turned back to Eliza. "There's one more thing." Eliza felt it before he spoke. She did not flinch. "The town will ask what comes next," the judge said. "They'll ask whether this arrangement becomes permanent." Eliza nodded. "They always ask." "I won't record your answer," he said. "Not unless you offer it." Eliza looked at Rosie, at the door, at the yard where winter had failed to claim everything. She looked at Calder and felt no need to borrow his voice. "I'll tell them when I know," she said. The judge inclined his head. "That will do." He climbed back into his wagon and left without another word. The gate closed behind him. The sound echoed once and faded. Calder exhaled slowly. "It's done," he said. Eliza shook her head, smiling faintly. "It's begun." The afternoon unfolded like any other. Eliza taught. Calder worked. The children learned and forgot and learned again. A neighbor came with a basket and stayed to watch letters form. Another came and asked if her daughter might sit in. Eliza said yes and moved a chair. "I am not hiding anymore." Near dusk, Calder came in with a small box wrapped in plain cloth. He set it on the table and did not push it toward her. "I made something," he said. Eliza did not open it. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he answered. She lifted the lid. Inside lay 4 rings, hammered smooth, plain silver. 3 were small. 1 was not. Eliza closed the box and set it down. Her breath caught, not from fear, but from the weight of choice. "They're for the girls," Calder said quickly. "Marks, names. The other—" He stopped. "Only if—" Eliza met his eyes. "Only if I choose," she said. He nodded. "Only then." She left the box where it was and went back to the stove. The children slept early, worn out by letters and laughter. The house settled into a quiet that did not ask anything of her. Later, Calder stood and took his coat. "Stay," Eliza said, as she had said before, but different now. He stayed. They sat at the table with the lantern between them. Eliza opened the notebook one last time and read the lines she had written across weeks. Dates, sums, names, words that had carried her when fear could not. She closed it and pushed it aside. "There's a thing I need to say," she said. He waited. "I won't marry to be kept," she said. "I won't marry to be believed." I won't marry to make the town comfortable. I know, he said. If I marry, she continued, steady now, it will be because I want to build with you, slowly, in daylight. Calder's voice did not change. That's the only way I'd stand there. Eliza reached for the box and opened it again. She lifted the smallest ring and slipped it onto Rosie's finger, just for a moment, then set it back. She did the same with the other two, smiling at the thought of them growing into their names. Then she took the last ring and held it, not yet offering it. Not today, she said. Calder nodded. Not today. She set the ring back in the box and closed it. The choice stayed whole. Outside, the wind found the wreath and lifted it once, then let it rest. Eliza rose and straightened it, then tilted it just slightly. She liked it better that way. Before sleep, she stood at the door and looked out at the barn, the fence, the road that had tried to claim her and failed. Calder stood beside her, not touching. "This is home," she said. "Yes," he answered. She turned to him then and did not look away. "When I'm ready," she said, "I'll tell you." He smiled, small and real. "I'll be here." Eliza lay down with Rosie warm against her chest. The house held them. The future did not shout. It waited. "I chose this." The lantern hissed once and went steady, and the night closed gently around a family that had named itself. As the lantern light settles and the house grows quiet, this story leaves us with something gentle to hold. It reminds us that a home is not built by force or fear, but by steady hands, honest work, and the courage to choose kindness when the world expects silence. Eliza did not ask to be saved. She asked to be seen. And in being seen, she gave her children a future rooted in dignity, learning, and love. If this story touched a memory in your heart, of hard winters survived, of choices made quietly, of love proven through patience, please take a moment to share it with us. Your experiences matter. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, or what part of this journey felt closest to your own life. If you enjoyed this Western love story, we invite you to gently tap the like button. It helps these stories reach others who still believe in honor, family, and second chances. And if you'd like to hear more tales of the old frontier, stories of resilience, faith, and hope, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next one. Thank you for spending this time with us. Until the next story, may your evenings be warm and your memories kind.